Hi there. I want to spend just a few minutes today talking about earnest money and the effect that it has inside a real estate transaction whenever you're negotiating a contract. First of all, earnest money is just simply a deposit towards the purchase of a property. That money is not actually given to the buyer, or excuse me, to the seller until the transaction closes. It's not even held by the seller during the time that the process is going on with your purchase. Normally, it's typically held by an escrow or title company. Once in a while, it will be held by the listing agent's company or broker. But anyway, when the earnest money is given, it's just simply a deposit towards your purchase. If it's not needed while you're making your purchase and closing the transaction, it's simply refunded to you. But most of the time, it's used for part of the down payment if you have a down payment, or part of the closing cost if you're paying some of the closing costs in the transaction. But anyway, it goes towards your purchase, and if it's not used, it's returned to you at the time of closing. The amount of the earnest money actually depends upon the probably the purchase price of the home. Sometimes a seller might have set a requirement that the earnest money has to be a particular amount, maybe 1% of the purchase price, something like that. You never know until you get to looking at a particular listing. But for example, in the lower price ranges, and by that I mean usually in the 150,000 and under range, earnest money is typically $500. Sometimes once you get in the higher price ranges, sellers won't feel comfortable with that little of an amount. So, and if you get up to the 200,000 range, they might ask you for $1,000 instead of the 500 if that's what you've offered in your contract. I had one the other day that they wanted to see 1% of the purchase price, and it was basically a $250,000 house. So the earnest money in that particular case ended up being $2,500. Basically, the way the earnest money works, it's just a deposit towards the purchase price, and there's several ways that the earnest money works in the event there's a problem with the contract. For example, our contracts read that if your property is inspected and it's in such condition that you no longer want to buy the property, that simply is refunded to you as the earnest money to the buyer. It does not go to the seller in any way, shape, or fashion. In the event that the repairs that are needed whenever you do the home inspection is such that you just negotiate some repairs to be completed by the seller, then the contract is not canceled and the earnest money stays with the contract. Another thing that we have sometimes, if there's an unusual situation, maybe something comes up while you're being processed on your home purchase, and if your loan is not approved for any reason. Sometimes there are surprises during the process, even if you've been approved. But once there's a problem with that, that money, if you didn't qualify, is actually also refunded to the buyer, and you get your full earnest money back at that time. Something else that can happen, let's say there's a problem with the appraisal. Maybe the appraiser might make certain requirements, and the requirements have to be done in the way of repairs prior to closing. If that's not something that can be negotiated with the seller, then the contract is also canceled at that time and your earnest money is refunded. In the event the appraisal were to come in low, let's say you have a contract for $200,000 and for some reason it only appraises for $190,000, then that contract's also canceled and the buyer also gets their earnest money back. There's very few situations where the seller actually gets to keep the buyer's earnest money. But one of the examples is if the inspections are good, your loan is approved, the appraisal is good, the repairs are successfully negotiated, but let's say you wake up one morning and you figure out you don't want to buy that house anymore. Doesn't really matter what the reason is. You just say, I don't want to complete this purchase. In that case, that money, the earnest money, will typically go to the seller, and that's because they're taking the property off the market for a period of time while it could have been processing and sold to another buyer, and they're entitled to your earnest money, so they get to keep it at that time. Doesn't happen very often. In fact, in 32 years, I've only have that happened once, and that's whenever my buyer that I was working with was actually renting, and at the very last minute, the landlord of the property they were renting said, "Why are you buying somebody else's house? You've lived here forever. I'll sell you mine." And she backed out and ended up canceling the contract. She got out of it, but the seller got the earnest money in that case. But it doesn't happen very often. The seller is very basically open to a problem on this kind of a deal. Most of the other contract provisions, whenever you're negotiating a contract, are written in the favor of the seller, but or in favor of the buyer, I'm sorry. But in this case, the seller got the earnest money back. Anyway, I'm Kyle Noe. I'm with the First United team, brokered by eXp Realty. We're here to help you answer any questions you might have, send you listings, help you buy houses, sell houses, whatever you might want to do. And if we can help you in any way, I hope you give me a call. My contact information is listed below. You can always reach me at 405-210-5319. We're here to help. Our thing is we want people to become homeowners once they're ready to become homeowners, and we'll do whatever we can to help. If you have any questions about earnest money or anything else, please feel free to call me. Hope you have a nice day out there, and thanks again for watching my video. Bye-bye.